before letting depression isolate you like a virus, you must understand how your brain works. In today's world, mental health is not just a genetic legacy, but also the art of coping with the pace of modern life. The pressure for high performance, the illusion of perfect lives created by social media, and the incessant sound of notifications push the human brain into a constant state of hypervigilance. When this pressure becomes chronic, the brain's reward mechanisms become blunt, and an individual may find themselves caught in the grip of depression and anxiety. This situation manifests as anhedonia, an inner lack of color, and an inability to enjoy things that were once pleasurable, even when all external conditions in life, such as success, money, and relationships, appear ideal. This guide provides a concrete roadmap to breaking these patterns by examining the cognitive processes that fuel depressive cycles. The trap of overgeneralization is condemning the whole based on a single part. On a psychological level, the mind dislikes uncertainty. When a negative event occurs, the brain turns it into a rule to avoid similar pain in the future. However, this defense imprisons the person in a dungeon of hopelessness. In the psychological background, the limbic system, the primitive, survival-oriented part of the brain, can perceive a single rejection as social exclusion, and therefore a fatal threat. For example, a scenario would be an employee whose long-labored project is rejected thinking, "I'll never make it in this industry. I'm untalented anyway." This faulty cycle evolves from a specific event into a global permanent label, followed by a loss of motivation, and ultimately, actual failure as a self-fulfilling prophecy. To counter this, use the OI cognitive restructuring method by asking yourself, how long will this last? Is it permanent? How much of my life does it affect? Is it pervasive? And am I solely responsible? Is it personal? Realizing that the answers are no, only for now, and only for this event, is liberating. The perspective of perfectionism and dichotomous thinking, known as all-or-nothing reasoning, sees the world in black and white and leaves no room for gray. When energy is low in a depressive mood, saying either the best or nothing inevitably drags one toward the nothing option. The cause and effect relationship here is that unrealistic standards lead to unattainable goals, which lead to feelings of inadequacy, and finally to paralysis and inaction. A concrete example is someone on a diet eating a small piece of chocolate and then eating uncontrollably for the rest of the day, saying, "My diet is completely ruined." As an actionable step, apply the I-step success methoding and divide your goals into 10% increments. If your energy today is at 20% instead of 100, accept the best thing possible within that 20% capacity, such as reading just 5 pages, as a total success. Adopting a victim role or having an external locus of control makes a person feel during hard times that the steering wheel of their life is not in their hands, but that they are a leaf in the wind. This passivity is the primary fuel for depression. Behavioral analysis shows that this makes the individual passive. Helplessness is learned, but effectiveness can also be learned. Conversely, over-responsibility, blaming oneself for every bad event, is equally destructive. The healthy approach is to conduct an influence area analysis. As a practical step, draw 2 circles on a paper. In the inner circle, write what you can control, such as what you will eat today or whom you will text. In the outer circle, write what you cannot, such as the economy or others' opinions. Focus your energy only on that small inner circle. Discounting positive feedback or positive filtering is making the good invisible. A depressive individual carries such a filter in their mind that only data supporting the high and bad thought gets through, while achievements and signs of affection remain outside. Due to this psychological effect, the person views success as luck or coincidence, while defining the slightest mistake as a character flaw. A scenario could be an artist ignoring 100 glowing reviews at an exhibition only to obsess over a single critique for days. The error here is labeling compliments as mere politeness or manipulation. As a practical suggestion, reverse the ye's, but game.and.o. When your mind says, yes, I finished the job, but I did it too slowly, stop it and say, yes, I did it slowly, but I managed to finish it, shifting the focus to the action itself. Additionally, keep a positive evidence journal to record even the smallest accomplishment or the slightest thank you receive during the day, physically reprogramming your mind to see the positive. Judging emotions and experiencing meta-emotion problems creates a burden of guilt through shoulds like I shouldn't be sad or I must stay strong, which is heavier than the original emotion itself. A person who gets angry at themselves for being sad suffers twice as much. The cause and effect relationship stretches from the natural emotion to social pressure or the inner critic, and then to the secondary pain of guilt. A short scenario involves someone who is sad about not getting a promotion, belittling their own feelings by saying, "Oh, please, there are worse problems in the world. Are you really upset about this?" Which is then followed by secret bouts of rage. Similarly, someone who loses a loved one calling themselves weak-willed because they can't focus on work while grieving is just as damaging. As a solution, adopt radical acceptance and treat emotions like guests by naming them. When you say, "I feel disappointed right now, and this is very human," and give yourself permission to feel, the intensity of that emotion will naturally decrease, because feeling an emotion is not the same as becoming that emotion. Regarding social isolation, depression acts like a virus that wants to isolate its host, you, to survive. Humans are social creatures, and isolation triggers the perception of threat in the brain, increasing stress. A common mistake is thinking that socializing must mean going to a crowded party, which is terrifying for someone with low energy. Instead, graduate your socialization and choose low-intensity social interactions. Spend time in places like libraries or parks where there are people, but you aren't forced to speak. Sending a short text to a friend, or simply asking, "Can I sit next to you?" acts as a spiritual buffer through human connection, helping to break the cycle of loneliness. Overthinking, rumination, or mental chewing is the state of turning the same negative scenario over and over in the mind without producing a solution. This keeps the amygdala, the fear center, active rather than the brain's problem-solving center. The cause and effect relationship is the transformation of emptiness and loneliness into a dark analysis of the past and future. Behaviorally, the brain thinks it will find a way out by thinking. But as long as there is no action, thought only increases stress hormones. As an actionable step, apply the AA 5-minute rule and give yourself a 5-minute pessimism appointment during the day. Once the time is up, use the ATAEE221 grounding technique. Count 5 things you see, 4 sounds you hear, 3 textures you touch, 2 scents you smell, and 1 thing you taste. This physical movement and shift in focus physically breaks the mental loop by pulling your brain from an imaginary future back to the present moment. On the matter of abandoning self-care and routinesing, the mind and body are an inseparable whole. Brain chemistry, serotonin and dopamine, is directly linked to gut health, sleep quality, and sunlight. Psychologically, neglecting self-care sends a message to the subconscious: I am not worth looking after. Inadequate sleep causes the amygdala to overwork, while a lack of sunlight leads to a drop in serotonin. As a suggestion, do not wait for motivation to arrive. Think of routines as a medicine that must be taken to heal, even if it tastes bitter. Waking up at the same time every day, making contact with morning sunlight for 10 minutes within the first half hour of waking, eating protein-focused meals to prevent blood sugar swings, and taking just a 15-minute walk to increase the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which repairs neurons, acts as a guide rope that prevents you from getting lost on a foggy road. In conclusion, action precedes motivation. The biggest misconception is the thought, I'll do it when I feel better. However, neuroscience tells us that taking action releases dopamine, and dopamine creates motivation. Thus, the cycle of action, result, and motivation works in this order. Even in your most depressive moment, a small mechanical action like brushing your teeth or drinking a glass of water sends a message to your mind. I am alive, and I am in control. Maintaining emotional well-being is not about swimming in a storm-free sea. It is knowing how to adjust the sails when a storm hits. Emotional well-being is not a destination, but a discipline rebuilt every day. Becoming aware of these habits, approaching yourself with a gentle but determined curiosity like a detective, and being as compassionate to yourself as you would be to a dear friend, is half the cure. Because the smallest step is infinitely more valuable than the step never taken. The smallest step is infinitely more valuable than the step never taken. Take a small step for yourself today and share the result in the comments.